Hello, welcome to episode 201 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 movies you must see before you die. 1925's The Phantom of the Opera. I would love to give you a detailed breakdown of all the different versions of Phantom of the Opera, which one is the optimal one to pick when you check out this classic silent film. But I've looked high and low, and I feel like you'd need to read a full book on this film to truly understand the different versions of the film, which one is the right one to watch, which one is the best way to experience the story. And I've now seen both versions, or at least the two most widely distributed versions, which are included on the BFI Blu-ray in the UK. I believe the American Blu-ray has 3 cuts. So I'll break it down to you as simply as I can as far as the versions go, because it kind of plays into my experience with the film and what I'm going to say about the film. I first watched it a couple of years ago in the 1929 version. So the film was originally released in 1925. It was a silent film, obviously. By 27, 28, sound films were starting to ramp up, and in 1929 they re-released The Phantom of the Opera, filmed some new scenes, and added dialogue to the film. They did that with quite a few films. They would release kind of this, the silent version and then the sound version. They were kind of tinkering around with older films and releasing those and seeing how they did. It earned another $1 million or so. It was a big success. They filmed a few more scenes. They changed things here and there. I believe Lon Chaney, who portrays the Phantom of the Opera, and we'll get to Lon Chaney, don't worry about that. He didn't have anything dubbed over, and they specifically stated that Lon Chaney's performance is a silent one in this new version still. But then the 1925 version was lost, or maybe the sound version from 1929 was lost, and then they found it again, and that's the basis of the new restoration, or the most recent one, was from the 1929 sound version, but the sound was so poor they took the sound out and made it a silent film again. So the first time I watched it was in the 1929 sound version without the sound. I think one sequence from the sound version is survived and has the sound on it and all that kind of stuff. I haven't even got to the film yet, holy shit. But yeah, and they have this color tinting as well, which looks incredible in the 1929 version. But I believe that it has all been done digitally and colorized in the computer to give the effect of what you would have seen in the 20s. So I'm not sure if I like that they've gone back and redone it. It's like colorizing black and white films, although at least in this case it was actually color tinting that was done at the time. Whereas, It's a Wonderful Life was never made or released in color, but they did the colorized version anyway. But yeah, I'm not too sure how I feel about that. I thought it would be cool to see the original 1925 version, the 1925 cut, see how different it is. And honestly, I didn't feel like there was that much difference except for the quality of the print. I mean, it looked so much more fuzzy than the 1929 version, which looked so crisp and gorgeous. I went back to the 1929 version after I watched the 1925 version. I was just like, wow, this looks stunning. But I wanted to see the most original form of it as I could, with the version that would have been seen in 1925 when the film was first released, I should say. So I don't feel like, even though the quality wasn't as good, you didn't have that great color, the tinting that really added so much mood to all the different scenes in the 1929 version, the film still really worked. Phantom of the Opera is a story I have no affiliation with. This is the only version of the story I've ever experienced, whether it be reading a book or watching a movie or a play, anything. This is my only knowledge. I don't even know if it's based on a book. I've got no idea. But if you know the story, you know the story. But for me, only watching this film, it's about this singer in an opera, in a play called Christine, and she is being guided by this mysterious voice backstage through her career. And he promises her great things, and the voice promises that she'll get the starring role. And it begins to start happening because the people who own the theatre get these threatening letters that you should put this girl on in the main role of the show, otherwise bad things will happen. And so she starts, her career starts picking up, and she has a boyfriend who, isn't really that interesting of a character. And I would even say that Christine isn't really that interesting of a character either, played by Mary Philbin. But I liked her performance in it. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. But the whole film is about the Phantom. It's about this guy, and we hear his real name halfway through the film. And he doesn't show up in full. You don't see that mask unveiled until at least 45 minutes into the film, if not an hour, I think. I think it's a full hour before we see the Phantom unmasked. And it's just one of the great scenes of the silent era, it really is. And Lon Chaney, who portrays the Phantom, is just wonderful and creepy and haunting and terrifying. Like, I could imagine going to a cinema in 1925 and being scared shitless of this. And you got to put it into your head that the time of it, you know. Now, yeah, it's not really scary, but I still find it very creepy. When he first, well, he doesn't take the mask off. It's Christine who pulls the mask off. And his shocked face, I mean, it's like, oh my god, when you see how hideous he looks. And then when he turns around and she sees his face and she reacts in such horror. And apparently they made sure that she didn't see the makeup until that scene when they filmed it to get her real-time reaction. But then we cut back to the Phantom and he's like this, kind of backing away somewhat, and it's slightly out of focus, and that's when it really looks scary to me. Just that kind of, this horrific face slightly out of view. There's something really creepy about that, I think. And I still think it's effective to this day, and there's the haunted nature of the character who, you know, we don't go into the backstory of him too much, but just the idea of this guy who is living in the sewer, basically, living underneath the opera house, and yearning for something more. You know, it's that classic kind of man becomes monster and is shunned and you know, literally pushed to the bottom because of the way he looks, and is a tortured soul. And I think Lon Chaney plays that beautifully, especially considering, of course, it's a silent performance and you don't get to hear any of the dialogue. You just have to look at the way he moves, his body. He has a very threatening presence to him as well. He's certainly not this, you know, cowering, tortured soul completely. You get to see some of that vulnerability revealed when we fully meet the Phantom without the mask, and you know, his bravado fades away, because he certainly becomes very harsh towards Christine when she is, you know, scared of the way he looks and wants to leave, and he becomes very domineering. But you know, in those moments where he's alone, you see how, you know, how that inner kind of demon that is manifesting itself with the way that he looks is just ripping him apart, and I love that. And the film is, I mean, the production design is the star of the show, as well as Lon Chaney. I think there's not a lot of great performances there. Everyone is serviceable. I really like, there's a small part in the film. It's a guy who's just around the theatre, and he's this great character actor. I don't know the guy's name, but he appeared in a few of Buster Keaton's films. I know he was in Seven Chances, Battling Butler, and he's just a really good, funny, comedic character actor, and he's got a few really funny bits in this film. So there's some humour in the film as well, which is quite enjoyable. I mean, it's been 2 years since I saw the 1929 version. I don't really remember there being that much of a difference. I remember looking into it at the time and seeing that they changed the intertitles. The story's a little bit different, but it really isn't that much different. I didn't feel like it was a different movie at all, really, except for the way that the print looked. So ultimately, I don't think that the versions really matter too much, but I think I'll go back to that 1929 version because the colouring is just gorgeous. The way that the colours bring out those shadows when we don't see the Phantom at the beginning, we see his shadows on the wall, things like that. And also there's a great sequence when he turns up at this masquerade and he's wearing this skull mask and his red cape has been coloured and everything's black and white except for his cape and the fluffy feather on the top of his cap, and it looks great. But there's a scene when he's up on top of the opera house and he's on top of this statue and the cape is flowing and it's just this nightmarish vision of this madman. And, you know, I thought all that stuff and the visual side of the film to be really enjoyable. The production design, again, the sets, the theatre itself, you know, the big stage and everything, people up in the boxes. I loved all that stuff. I really liked the feel of this film. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, Lon Chaney, you know, was a guy who made a career out of doing these horror-centric performances, playing these extreme characters, you know, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and we talked about The Unknown last year, where he played that guy. I forgot what it was now. I think he didn't have any arms, did he? He only used his feet for stuff, and that he was amazing in that film. So, and he's unrecognizable here. So he was truly one of those like proper, like, I mean, I say the character actor from the Buster Keaton films. I mean, he plays kind of, you know, caricatures, but this is a real character actor, like someone who plays like, you know, like a Johnny Depp almost, you know, someone who just disappears into a role, even though you could argue with Johnny Depp, you always see that it's Johnny Depp, but you look at Lon Chaney in Phantom of the Opera and it's just, the makeup is unbelievable. And he did all that himself. That was a Lon Chaney creation. He applied his own makeup, and that was a big part of his trade, was that he did his own makeup, and he created those kind of visual elements of his characters himself. And he died young, in his 40s, about 5 years after the Phantom of the Opera came out. I guess a year after the 1929 version. It was 1930 when he died. I guess I should have just said that. Yeah, it's a shame he didn't go on, because apparently he was the #1 choice to play Dracula in Todd Browning's 1931 film. Although, you know, Bela Lugosi, I mean, that's just, we talked about that last year as well. That's just an iconic role. I don't know how it would have played out with Lon Chaney, but, you know, he certainly would have had a very long career, well into his 60s, no doubt, of playing these extreme characters. But he had a hell of a run, and certainly made a name for himself. And I think Phantom of the Opera is one of, if not his most iconic role. And I think it really shows. It's a slow film. You need patience. You know, it's not going to entertain people who are used to kind of a snappy pace. But I tell you what, I love the film, and it has its shortcomings. You know, the pacing, and most of the other characters, if not all of them, aren't that really interesting. It's all just there to build around this Phantom of the Opera character, and you know what? I'm okay with that. And it ends on a note which is really quite hard to see in a lot of ways, even though he's the villain of the film. Well, he's not. He's not the villain, he's not the hero, and he's not just in the middle. He's this entity. You know, he's this character that you feel different things for as the film progresses. You're intrigued to see what he looks like. You know, when he's wearing that mask that covers most of his face, you can see the bottom of his lip and his chin, but you can't see the rest of his face. And you're just so intrigued as to what he looks like. And this is a big part of the shock value of the film. Before it was released, they made sure that no one saw an image, a single frame of Lon Chaney as the Phantom of the Opera without the mask on. So as far as the promotion of the film was concerned, they kept that a complete secret. The first time the public saw that was in the cinema in 1925, and it really shocked people. And as it should have, because again, it's just such a great piece of, you know, I read into all the tricks that he used to make himself look like that. It's not even worth going into it. It's just so impressive and so ingenious, the little kind of things that he would do, and I think it's just so impressive. And after watching it twice now, when I first watched it, I thought it was great kind of aesthetically, and I thought his performance was great. I wasn't sure how I felt about the whole film as a whole, but now I've seen it twice, I think it's a great film. So is it a film you should see before you die? I definitely think it is, and I would definitely recommend watching the tinted version, because the colour just adds so much more flavour, character. Like, it enhances all the great production design that's gone into the film. It just makes everything look cooler. It gives you that feel like at night time you get the blues, and there's a scene inside a room where it's really hot and it goes red, and that's a bit extreme, but it really plays into the action that's happening on screen. I love the whole ending sequence when things are starting to close in on the Phantom, and then finally he gets chased out of the opera house, and it becomes this big witch hunt, you know, and so you get to see what happens when that horror of humanity is unleashed to the public, and what they would do in that situation. And it's an interesting ending, to say the least. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Phantom of the Opera, and it is a film you should see before you die, I think, personally. But I'm going to say that for most of the silent films, because I always want more people to watch silent films, but I do think it's one worth watching, I really do. And yeah, I could think of a lot of other silent films that wouldn't be anywhere near as accessible as this one. This one has a clearly defined kind of classic story to tell, and it does a great job in just, you know, showing you all those pieces. It has a lot of intertitles in the text and dialogue, but it doesn't overpower the film like other silent films I've seen. And it always varies as far as the intertitles. How much information do you give the audience? How much explaining do you do? How much dialogue do you give them? You know, do you put a card for every single word, sentence the character speaks, or do you let a few sentences go unheard, you know, and unexplained, and then you kind of just give the viewer the cliff notes, you know, the most important stuff? And I feel like this film is really economical with that, but still gives you quite a bit of information, and does the usual silent film trick where they'll show letters sent to other characters, so it's a bit more natural in telling the story. The exposition isn't as blunt when you're looking at letters from people, which is a very common trick of the trade for silent films, is to look at telegrams and letters from other characters, and that kind of fills you in on all the little bits of the story. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm really enthusiastic about silent film, but Phantom of the Opera, big thumbs up from me. I'm glad I revisited it and didn't just do the review off memory. I'm glad I watched the original version of the film, but I'll definitely go back to that 1929 cut in the future. And this is kind of a beginning of a little trilogy of videos in the Epic Film Challenge too, which kind of keep linking to each other. So we've talked about Lon Chaney, noted kind of horror icon of the silent era. Next time we're going to be talking about Lon Chaney Jr., Lon Chaney's son, as he prepared to step into a classic horror monster character in The Wolfman. So I'll see you with that video next time. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my review of The Wolfman.